The New South Wales Bar has been described as the nursery for politicians, and between 1946 and 1980 there were at least 12 people at the bar who crossed over into politics. Did you ever consider a career in politics where your knowledge of human nature would have really come to the fore?
Oh yes, indeed I almost stood, because John Dowd, who was a great friend of mine when he was attorney, he kept urging me to do it, and I thought very seriously of it, and he even allocated a seat in North Sydney which was fairly safe. But speaking to my then wife and parents and all those people, they said, really, you would be much better because you'll finish up on the bench, and that's better for you than the rough and tumble and the crookedness of politics.
But you'd had a lot of experience of rough and tumble.
Oh, yes, I know, but it's not quite the same as in Parliament, is it? The rough and tumble of the law is conducted properly with a sense of determination, whereas politics is here, there, rough, rude, gaining points. In the end, I thought ill of it, and I didn't want to be part of it. It was an enticing plea from them to come and be involved, and you'll finish up Attorney General. And I thought, isn't that nice, to be a guide in the law? But in the end, I thought, it's not worth it. You know, being in all that rudeness and that dirtiness, I would rather stay in the law and finish up, as I would luckily did, by being appointed a judge, which, as I keep saying, those were the best 15 years of my whole career. It was absolutely enthralling to be in control, to work hard and get decisions, and be involved as the person that made things happen.
Are there particular instances or matters that you're proud to have presided over?
Oh, yes, but they come and go.
Or where you've contributed to case law?
Yes, I did that, but there's nothing I'm really proud of. I mean, there was more the cases where you tried to make history in the law, and the Court of Appeal said, no, you've got to stick to the norm, Mr. Twigg, and you get a bit sick of it. No, I did make some significant decisions, it's reported, but I really didn't look to that. I was a down-to-earth sort of person and liked to be at that level dealing with the day-to-day cases. I was never a good lawyer, so as such, I never wanted to other than follow the law. I didn't want to be one of these smart alecks who made law or not. I just thought my role is to do the work and follow those better than I at the law.
You describe yourself as not a good lawyer. That's an interesting description. I mean, I take it to mean you feel you're a better advocate than a lawyer, almost.
Oh yes, I think I was a better advocate, but what I'm saying is, if someone thought I was good enough to be a judge, of course I'll agree with them, but I didn't think I was that good, and whilst I did work hard, I never was an erudite lawyer. I followed the law rather than creating it.
So who to your mind are examples of erudite lawyers in the vein that you speak of?
Oh, Dixon, for one, Jerome Dixon. Barwick was very erudite, although a roughneck. Yeah, it's those sort, and there are others whose names are not coming to mind, mainly in the Equity Court. Myers was a very erudite judge, cranky fellow, and he had long cases that were very difficult, but he hopped in and did them. And remember, he was a cripple, so everyone said that sort of affects the way he did. But if you had him in a quiet moment in his chambers, his whole face lit up when he laughed. He really had a very lovely side to him. All he liked to present, like lots of those good lawyers, was, I am here in a high place. Do as I say, because I can run it my way. To that extent, he got off short. But I don't see any other way to do it. When you're up there, you're not down below in the bowl of the court. So you have to be different. I tried to talk to people about it, and in sometimes I succeeded. But in many others, people were afraid of me when I started to do that. They thought, what's happening? He's one of us. You can't forget that he's an advocate. He'll make a mistake, so let's do it more properly. I think I always worked very well. I got through the work more than most.
To some extent, does the institution mould the personality?
Oh yes, very much so. You've got to learn from your betters. You learn from experience more than in any other field. I mean, an electrician learns from experience, but he's got to do things in a rote fashion. Man who lays a carpet has got to do it in a particular way, pressing it into the side. Not so with the law. You do have some set patterns, and you do go to books, but you can take all sorts of different ways. Our final lecturer, in his final lecture, said, I just want you to know that I haven't taught you the law, only where to find it. And that's very true.
Why was Myers known as Funnelweb?
Because he was that sort of nasty fellow. He had the crunched, hunchback look, and he looked like the funnelweb. And he would bite because he was that sort of nasty character. As I say, off the bench, a smiling, happy man, particularly with those whom he respected. But on the bench, he closed up and he was terribly introspect, and so we called him Funnelweb.
Were there other interesting nicknames among people, contemporaries at the time, that you'd care to recall?
Some I don't want to recall. But on the other hand, no, they're not coming to mind.
Did you have any nicknames?
Oh, if I will, I'm not going to tell you. But you see, Barry thought he was called Thumper Thorley, because he had this big voice and he was very rude on the bench. He was pretty rough when he was at the bar, but he did it deliberately to frighten people, particularly young people. But if you knew him and he knew you and respected you, he might speak in a very gravelly voice, but you knew his heart was in it, and he was a very good lawyer. So we called him Thumper. What did we call Ken Pawley? He always carried his brown hat when he walked across Hyde Park every day at lunchtime. We had a nickname for him too. We had a nickname for...
Was it a Homburg?
No, a brown felt hat. That old... And he never wore it. He always carried it because he had a good head of hair. And he was quite good looking. Now, who else had some nicknames? Lots of the district court judges.
Tom Hughes, of course, was known as Frosty.
Frosty, he was too, of course. He's not now and hasn't been for years. But when he addressed a jury or when he was in a case, he was aloof all the time. And I liked him for that when I briefed him when I was a solicitor. I loved that presentation. And you couldn't approach him without talking sensibly to him. And so all the young barristers were in awe of him.
Who read with you?
I don't know that I had any, did I?
I didn't come across any, but I thought perhaps I'd ask anyway, just in case.
I think I did. Oh, Virginia Lydiard did for a time. I can't remember any.
Who did you read with?
I don't know.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I thought Chester Porter didn't read with anyone, he told me.
Yeah, well, I'm in the same era. He's a little ahead of I. But it's the same standard. I don't think you had to read, and if you didn't, you didn't. But then they made it compulsory. And when the College of Knowledge, the College of Law came, you had to have tuition of that kind.